Is it true that you had a number of endings?
I was very fortunate to be trained in NIDA, where the development of story is an ongoing process. You work it and then you rework it, and you're constantly trying to find the clear narrative. This is something that Shakespeare in his day would have done every night. They would have just changed, evolved the work. You don't freeze frame it. You don't write it. It's perfect. And I was always trying to find the different endings, and indeed I did shoot a tragic ending, and I shot a very happy ending. The mechanics of it allowed it to be happy. But what happened was, which was so buoying, and this is where storytelling constantly surprises you, is that I found an ending that was responding to this moment, and most particularly to my own feelings.
Was it an article of faith for you to have an all-Australian cast and crew?
You know, I didn't have to think about it, because you go to cast a role in this film and you think, who's the best person for it? It's invariably going to be, you know, who could possibly play the somewhat drunken bon vivant, you know, who was, had a few secrets, and Jack Thompson, he could be good, or you know what I mean? It's just, I mean, who could play the Aboriginal Gulliper? Who could do that? David Goldberg. I mean, you don't have to think about it.
But it's not just cast; it's cast and crew.
Yes.
And there's this whole kind of semi-permanent problem that the Australian industry has. Something big like yours can come along, and there's work suddenly for all these talented.
Yeah.
There is enormous depth of talent here, isn't there?
No question
right
about
through
that.
the industry.
Yes. And by the way, around the world.
And yet for so many of those, unless they go overseas for a very substantial part of the time, they'd starve.
Yeah. Look, you go around the world, and not just in film, but magazines, media, so many times you meet Australians who really are working over there because they have to. Now look, nothing wrong with doing that, fantastic. What's so great, and what's starting to happen now, and what's really inspiring and really positive, is that you're seeing young Australians, like I did when I did Strictly Ballroom, and they're going over and they're playing, if you like, for all the world's a stage, they're playing in different countries. But the ability, and this is one of the great things about the tax break, is the ability to come back and play in their own world like we have been able to on any scale. It's as important to make small Australian films as it is large scale. But it's also important not to be penalised if you can be a Peter Weir and make a large scale Australian film, you know, not to be penalised in your own country.
Do you think that the film industry in Australia is in a vital, you know, that it is a lively, vibrant, healthy industry in Australia?
There has never been a situation where there's been an industry where the rest of the world is going, we must have the next Australian film. Let us be honest and real. Predominantly, the United States of America feeds the globe in terms of cinema on a commercial level. So as far as a functioning industry like Detroit, that's America. No other country has that. But as far as a place where filmmaking is looked upon as I do, I mean, the reason I think that Australian film has made its mark so much are the reason Australian actors, I mean, look at these actors I work with. They're sought after around the world. And if it's television or anywhere, Australian actors pervade everywhere. Why? Because there's still an excitement in it. It's not Detroit. It's not manufacturing a car. It's actually creativity. And the ability to be involved in creativity and be paid for it is still exciting and still a privilege in this country. And that is something that, when I came, that is what has buoyed us through this project.
There's strong criticism from the top of the Screen Producers Guild that Australians have been making the wrong kind of film in the relatively recent past, that they're too bleak, too dark, not uplifting enough, not commercial, that there aren't enough comedies.
Right. Funny thing, when I made Strictly Ballroom, I think a whole lot of those comments were made about Strictly Ballroom, you know, too silly, too suburban, you know, Australian films should be set in the outback. I mean, they're probably fair dialogues to have. Those same kind of dialogues might have come out of the head of a studio, you know, in the United States in the last few weeks. You know what I mean? Invariably people go like, why is it not working? And the honest truth is, nobody knows. The truth is that the next blinding creative, you know, leap out of Australia is going to come from a place you least expected, and no one's going to be able to predict what it should be.
In personal terms, you've come to the end of this particular journey.
Not yet, but soon.
Well, you're giving up your child. So how do you feel about the child right now?
Well, I'm worried for it, and not protective, because it's got to stand on its own 2 feet.
You talked a few moments ago about sort of living the fear every second night.
Facing it. Yeah.
Facing the fear. Well, your company motto is a life lived in
Yeah.
fear is a life half lived. But yours sounds like a life, a lot of it, facing fear.
Yes.
So how do you deal with fear, particularly the fear of failure?
Well, you deal with it, you know? And look, this is an interesting thing. You take this film now. You, at a certain point, and when I say you, I mean I'm a very not alone person. I front it, but Hugh, Nicole, I mean the wonderful actors that I work with, both legends that I grew up with, new and up and comings, heads of departments. I mean, you know, everybody is having to get up and give their all, and that's all you can do in the end. You give your all absolutely, and at a certain point, you know, there's an old saying, films are never finished, they're just taken away. So on the weekend it gets taken away, and we've given our all to it. And then it goes out in the world, and some people may love it, some people may not. That happens. Every film I've ever made, it's been love and hate.
Baz Luhrmann, thanks for talking with us.
It's been great to talk, Kerry.